Forget about struggling to adult. We're struggling to human.
At least that's what everyone's telling us.
You're right.
Per usual. Hey, I'm Angela, bringing sense to the conversation. From here on my soapbox, I shed light on the things society doesn't want you to talk about. You know, the real shit that matters: intersectional thinking, sexuality, queerness, neurodiversity, consent, and the fact that self-care is bullshit. For me, it's all about community and how we can care for each other.
And I'm Molly, giving a big fork you to cookie cutter solutions. I help burnt out, busy as fuck, neurodivergent, and queer entrepreneurs make shit happen by providing out of the box solutions and sustainable systems to grow your biz. For me, it's all about doing what makes sense for your brain.
Enough with the chit chat. Let's get to it.
Keep listening, and together we'll explore the drudgery, dreams, and all that shit in between. Get ready to call bullshit on what everyone's saying you should be doing,
as we navigate the spectrum between what really matters to you and the shit keeping you from it.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Oh my gosh. We have such an episode for you today. And then my brain disappears. But no, today we're going to be talking about a couple really big things that we're really excited to share with you. And before we get started, we wanted to kind of start with, have you ever, we're going to do a scenario here, guys. Have you ever had something you were looking forward to so much and you had to put so much effort and energy in planning that thing, and it's consumed your mind and kept you up at night, and you're up in the morning and you're barely eating or you're overeating because you're putting so much effort into this thing, and then the thing comes and it's the thing, and then things go to shit after this thing. Not because the thing was bad, but because you have this emotional collapse, essentially.
Energetic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Energetic collapse. And so we wanted to take a few moments to talk about that, because Angela has been putting her heart and soul into something recently, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. And today is the day after.
Today is the day after. And that's why my hair looks so good.
It looks fantastic.
It's the leftover hairspray.
Oh, yes. And so, I mean, you've been spending a good couple months leading up to months and months leading up to last night. And occasionally we've taken a break from an episode just so that you could kind of get a little bit of energy regaining moment. Because sometimes you only have enough energy to focus on one thing. Not you specifically, but
that's
people
true.
In general.
No, that's true.
I mean, also you, but and so tell us a little bit about that.
About the energy?
I mean, just like about how it was building up to last night, and then last night happening, and like.
Okay. Yeah, so the last 2 weeks especially, right? The last 2 weeks especially have been just a lot of work. And you explained it really well, of the not eating or eating, just whatever you could get your hands on at any moment. I think, like, for me, there's this feeling of not even having emotions, even though I know they're there. But any emotions that I have had have been kind of diverted into, like, just being angry and pissy. And, because I'm just not able to put energy into anything other than this thing that I'm doing.
Right. Yeah.
And the other people who are involved that I have to interact with. So therefore, my partner poor guy has to deal with like so much of not having access to me, yet me not always being kind, or I don't know that kind is the right word, but me being extra needy emotionally and him having to expend emotional energy and put his own needs to the side in order to take care of mine because I'm unable to do any of that emotional lifting.
You're switching
Um,
co-regulation roles.
yeah, and I mean, he does that for me anyway, right when I need it.
Yeah.
That's what we do, and I mean that's been discussed and negotiated in our relationship. But in cases like this, it can go a little bit too far. It can be a little bit too much. And regardless of how aware I am, it is how it is. And when there's something big like this, we just have to deal with the stuff that comes with it for me to be able to do that. And I don't know that I had planned on talking about this today, but I'm going to. This has always been one of my biggest issues, with with everybody's like, you've got your shit together. You've really got your shit together, because they watch me work and they watch me do all the things that I do, and getting master's degrees and being a leader and all of these things. But I really struggle with doing both. I really struggle with being able to work and do the work that I do to the level that I want to do it. Um, and maintaining my relationships.
Yeah.
Um, I know that there are lots of people out there who are really great and wonderful at doing that. Um, and this is why I say balance. It's just not possible. In the real world, you can't balance forever.
Right.
Um, like people even say like the balance of nature. Well, I don't find that nature is balanced at all. Rather, it's harmonious. So I try to find some harmony in there. Um, which sometimes means somebody sings louder than another person.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think this goes back to a couple episodes ago, we talked about that match analogy.
yep,
And
yep,
like, I think people assume that you have enough matches to both have a positive or completely regulated personal and do this big strong work thing, when in reality you're stealing whatever matches, well, not stealing, negotiatedly taking matches from what you normally allocate to personal and pulling them. Lost the microphone for those of you not watching. um, you're taking those matches that you've allocated for personal and you're just reallocating them to be able to focus, which means like you might have one match left by the time you get home and or
yeah.
turn
If
around.
even, yeah, if
Yeah.
even. So I mean, I guess the reason I share that is because for some of us that's normal, and it doesn't matter what job I'm doing. It doesn't matter what classes I'm taking. Whatever I am interested in and focused on is where my time, effort, and energy goes. Um, and often that comes at a detriment to my relationships. Um, one of the really funny things that happened during my diagnosis, and I say funny, um, but when I read this, I cried. Like when I read my report, I cried. I cried really hard actually, because it said, um, Angela can be rather cold, and it's likely that she has very few friends and close relationships.
Mhm. Obviously, they do
And
not know you.
I mean, yeah, but I get emotional because it's also true. It's also true.
Yeah.
Um,
At a surface level.
at a surface level, and mind you, this is a diagnostician who, saw me for several hours on several different occasions, and um, at one point in the report it said that I'm friendly, and then but the overall um, diagnostic piece was that I'm cold and don't have friends or good relationships. So, I mean, and that's where that comes from, right? That's where that comes from and that's kind of one of those stigmas actually that's out there is of how we are. Um, and that's it's not necessarily true. Again, like you said, surface level, that can be true in some instances, but overall as a human being, that's not true.
Right. And it makes me think about like everybody's like, specifically with autistic folks, um, it's so black and white. No, it's fucking gray. There's so much fucking gray out there that you
Okay,
see
look,
black
there's
and
a
white
reason
because you
why
don't
it's
see
called a
them.
spectrum.
Right.
It's not gray. It's a rainbow. Like, look, we're
Well, I
actually
meant,
wearing our rainbows today.
I know. I meant, as my nipples show.
On our gray shirts. On
Yes,
our gray shirts.
right. I meant in the sense of like, yes, it is a
Between the
fucking
black and the white, yes.
between the black and the white. There's just a lot of gray and there's nuance, and that we see more nuance. Well, majority of us see more nuance than, and we're like, oh, but that scenario hasn't taken place and this scenario hasn't taken place. So how did these parallel, and what happened leading up to that to make it so that this thing that perfectly landed this way, and
Yeah.
some
Context,
butterfly
hello.
moved. Yeah. Exactly. And I feel like it's the same thing that you're describing, is like with this person who gave, like, I respect that that makes you emotional when you read that, but I see it as all she could see is you being frustrated with the system of how they're diagnosing you, and that that's coming through because you know that it's
Oh, it did.
just bullshit, especially with all the interactions that happened during all of that,
Oh, yeah.
and how they were blatantly just disregarding all the things you were
I
saying.
think I could tell you the exact conversation that led up to that.
Mhm.
And it was very specifically a conversation of these questions that you are asking me and these things that you are asking me to do were developed for little white boys, and that is not appropriate for what we are doing here. And therefore, before anything even happens, we can say that there is no validity to what is happening here. Like, I mean, they very specifically said during one of the tests, um, apparently it was the one where you're like playing with the toys kind of thing,
Oh, mhm.
um, that I was somewhat rude and questioning during that part. And I mean, like,
I mean, I'm gonna redirect us because I feel like we could talk about that process and
I
the blatant
this leads
disregard.
directly into what we were going
Yes.
to talk about today, right?
Right. So, the okay. Yes.
This is why I
Um,
do what I do. This is the whole
right.
reason that last night happened.
Exactly. So, for those of you that haven't been listening very long or didn't get the memo, that's okay. Angela is the CEO of an organization called Umbrella Alliance. And they had an event last night called ND23. Um, and I mean, it was a big deal. It was a big deal.
Yes.
And it's a huge deal. It is I'm going to describe this, and if I do it wrong, just correct me. Um, but essentially, this is a culmination of bringing together all the different, you call them silos, right?
Silos.
Silos.
Mhm.
Oh, look at me remembering a word. Silos of the ND community, that the neurodivergent community, and making sure everybody is communicating and talking so that everybody has access to all the information that is happening at one time. And because people within the ADHD community might find some things that are really helpful that honestly could help somebody in the bipolar, neuro, autistic community, and same thing in those silos. And but not everybody's communicating up till now.
Right. And those people, have to go to 500 different places to find information instead of it
Mhm.
being in one place.
One
And
place.
not just one place, but not behind a paywall.
Correct. And so this is what uh, Angela has been working on with her team, and it's very
You almost called me
exciting.
AJ.
I did. I don't. I've never called you AJ, which is weird, but I think it's because I saw it 30 million times yesterday.
Yeah.
um, but and it's just so incredible, um, because there's some major themes, and major topics that are being discussed. And you guys had breakout groups last night, and it was
Yeah.
just, I'm gonna shut up and let you talk now.
Okay. Um, yeah, I mean, ND23 is the foundation for all of the work that we will do. Um, and not just, so we're in Australia and we're in the US. Um, and we will be in other places as well. This is not one of those things where it's like, here's this one organization and this group of people decide everything for everybody. We know that local areas need their own space. They need their own, they need to look at what they need locally, and what they need locally at this time, context specific, right, is not what somebody else needs or another local community needs at that time. So we can't just do one single thing and say this is the blanket and it works for everything. We're neurodivergent. That doesn't work for us,
Right.
right?
No.
So with ND23, we are facilitating, we're not doing the work for people. We are facilitating and creating space and providing resources and that foundational support that people need so that they feel empowered to take action in their local communities, because it can be very daunting to think about, like, these are the things that I would like to do, but I don't have the resources, time, effort, energy, access to the resources that I need, all of those things. So with ND23, Umbrella is providing those resources, is providing that platform for people to take action in the way that they need to in their local communities. And then people from each of those separate groups are coming together once a month and having conversations that decide, what resources we need more of, what access is missing, what's happening in the education cohort, what's happening in the employment cohort, what's happening in the healthcare cohort, and what's happening in the social protections cohort. And how are we, not just, it's not about awareness. At this point, it's not just about awareness. There are all of these different siloed organizations that are providing awareness. We are taking action on that. It no longer is it thinking and having the thinkers over here and having the doers over here. The thinkers and the doers are coming together. And that's really what we're doing. And it's very exciting, and it has a purpose, right? Like last night, Ben Hook, who is our project coordinator, an amazing young person, who is an incredible advocate, for the community and brilliant. And um, one of the things that he said last night was all humans deserve to have access to resources that they need to cover their essential needs sustainably and with dignity. And that comes from a report done by the um, International Committee of the Red Cross, the cover their essential needs sustainably and with dignity. Um, and it was a report on economic security. And that is what we are doing at Umbrella Alliance. We are creating that community-led network to, I don't, fix isn't the right word, and I'm struggling with my words right now, to improve outcomes for our community, because 3/4 of us do not have economic security. And the quarter who do are predominantly white, privileged, and they are at risk of losing it all the time as well because of that intersection of neurodiversity. And that's unacceptable. It's completely unacceptable, and it must be addressed. There's no reason that 3/4 of the ND community should not have access to the resources that they need.
Truth. Um, Sorry. The things you said were like one of those heavy moments where you're like, I don't know how to follow that. In a good way, not like a, oh no.
No, I get
Right.
it. I get it.
Yeah.
You know, this happens to me all of the time. When I start talking about economic security, everything goes quiet. And you and I have talked about it enough that I know that you know what it means. But number one, I think when people hear those statistics, people need time to process. Like, holy shit, am I one of the 3/4 or am I one of the fourth? Which one am I? And then to in the moment, right then and there, experience the grief of being that 3/4, or experience the grief of understanding how privileged you are to not be in that group who experiences economic insecurity. And then there's I'm not really sure what economic security means. So I'll tell you really quickly. It's the state of being able to care for yourself and your dependents' financial needs sustainably over time, including in the event of an interruption to that, like COVID, for example, or the loss of a job, or being, a medical emergency. And when someone has economic security, they don't worry that if they get sick, it will ruin them financially.
Right.
They don't choose to not go and see a doctor because they can't afford it. They don't choose to not they don't have to choose food over medication because they have access to both. They And it's not just healthcare, right? They have access to education and training and learning opportunities so that they can experience the employment success that they are looking for. They have access to employment, and employment becomes, accessible not just to get a job, but throughout the process of having a job. Um, they are able to um, have quality childcare. And then there's this piece that people forget. They're able to interact meaningfully in their community. Like, that's economic security. And we don't necessarily think about that when we're talking about economic security. People think that it's just money. It's not just money, it's the infrastructure of everything that allows us to have access to resources that a lot of people associate with having money, because right now only the people who have money have access to those resources.
Yeah. I know you're laughing at me. It's so I think Okay, so a lot of the things you talk about. So like on TikTok, there's been a couple things going on where people are like, "Hey, 75 or 85% of you, how do you keep a job or how do you do these things?" Um and it all comes back to this. Like most of the time it's not because, well, I mean in some cases it might be. Most of the time it's not because they have necessarily better coping skills. I have my air quotes here, guys. Coping mechanisms, or their masking skills are intensely amazing. Also, air quoting the amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's not necessarily that. It's that a lot of them just ended up in a place of privilege to start with. And so that kind of continues for them.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that somebody who currently doesn't have economic security can't gain economic security. They just need a lot of support from those who have economic security to help them themselves do that.
Right.
And I
And
think
not
that,
only those in our community,
right,
right? We need people outside of the outside of
absolutely.
the disability community to step up and say, here we are supporting. And
Mhm.
again, I'm coming back to that privilege piece, right? When we look at, one of the big huge things to me, in fact, when I wrote the bylaws for the US um, Umbrella Alliance US, I very specifically put in there so that it is mandated that we have a justice committee that has the space to come and bring up anything that goes against our anti-racism policies. And why was that important to me? Because even though I grew up at times homeless, we didn't ever have a lot of money. I'm the first person in my family, like to go and do the college thing, and because I am white, have so much privilege that other people don't have, and I saw it all of the time in my students who didn't have access to um, to healthcare, who didn't have access to diagnosis, who, in the case of my Black students especially, who were being sent home regularly for behavior, quote unquote, behavior issues when there was maybe something else going on because the bias was there
Mhm.
of this is a bad person with bad behavior simply because of the color of their skin. Like, these are the things that must be addressed and must change.
Right. Well, and I am learning new things culturally every day. Like I super pasty white girl privileged person. Well, girl with like an asterisk. And then, but I'm learning all the time. But I don't know what I don't know, and I need to admit when I didn't know and I did something wrong. And I feel
Hmm.
like that's what the Justice Committee is just saying is we don't know what we don't know. So if you bring it up, we can learn and we can change, we can apologize, and we can move forward. Um, uh, and I think that's a huge piece is like you don't know what you don't know, but if you're
Right.
open to learning and open to changing, like that's where the biggest growth happens, and that's where you can make more changes to society as a whole because you're open and receptive to these things. um,
Yeah.
and so it's great that you added that to
Yeah,
the
I was
bylaws.
actually really proud of it. I think when the lawyer, I said to the lawyer, "Oh, we need to add this into the bylaws," and she was like, "Wow, I've not seen that before." I had this major moment of pride, and I was like, "Well, now all of your contracts can have that in there."
Yes.
And I thought, this is what it looks like to make a difference.
Hmm.
It might be quiet, and it might be something that's written down on this piece of paper, but it's a start. And I'm sure that there are other organizations who have done that as well. Um, and we should. Shouldn't that be part of every
You would think.
not-for-profit organization. Like, I don't know. To me, if you are
It
doing
should be a
anything,
part of any organization,
everything.
nonprofit or for profit. Like
Yeah,
if you are truly about change of culture and being accepting for all, you should have a justice
you
committee.
should have a
Like you
justice
should be able to
committee.
do that.
And not a
Um,
token justice committee, but one that is
no.
actually empowered to act. And when somebody comes to me and they say, "This happened, you said this," or somebody within the organization said this, or whatever, it's not met with, "I'll look into it." It's, "Okay, what are we going to do about it? I'm listening right now. Everything else is going to be put off to the side because this needs to be addressed."
Right.
Not, "We're going to address it 3 months from now." Not, "We're going to
Mm-mm.
put some apology up and leave it at that." But what action are we going to take right now? Um, and I feel like that kind of, took us away from the whole ND23 thing. But at the same time, that's what this is about.
Right.
It's about justice, and um, it's about taking action to do the things that we want to do. We're gonna, what do they say? Put up or shut up, shit
Yeah.
or get off the pot.
Mhm.
Um, you know, there are plenty of people who are talking about things, and that's great. Like I said, thinkers plus doers, but we have to
Yeah.
work together.
Mhm. So, were there any so I don't know if did you go to different breakout groups yourself last night?
I did not, because I was in the chat room. I
Mm.
only bounced into them like quickly at the end to let people know there were a couple minutes left.
Mm.
But I set it up so that at the end of each session, so they had a secretary in each session who was taking
Ah.
notes. And yeah, and then so at the
Okay,
end
so
of the
this gets to my
session,
next question.
yeah, yeah, yeah. At the end of the
Okay.
session, I mean, come on, Molly, I have systems, right? Um, um,
I choked on breath.
I saw that.
Just
It
breathing.
looked like a little gnat or something flew into you, but it didn't. It was just air.
Well, I'm having background story for all of those that haven't been around for years like Angela. There are weeks where my lungs decide that they no longer want to operate. Um, and so I'm having one of those weeks. And so it was just one of those like my
Yep.
body forgot how to breathe. Like, I don't know. Anyway, so what I was gonna ask, because that's why I was like, um, honestly, if you only ever listen to our podcast, you might want to watch it one time, just for all the weird shit we do with our hands. Um, and the noises and how okay, anyway. Um, no, my hands are out. My T-Rex arms are out. Um, okay. Were there any like I mean, I know that you love every takeaway that was made for sure because of what it means to have those takeaways from each of those breakup groups. But were there some that you were like, "Oh my god, I can't wait to talk about this."
I mean, okay, there was a point. I honestly can't remember which one of these it was. There, in fact, there's a lot that I can't quite just like pull out and remember from last night.
Right.
I was, doing a lot of things all at once. Plus, it was the culmination of that energy build. Um,
Right.
and I haven't processed it yet, and I probably won't until after I have, most likely tomorrow. I'm probably going to have just a day where I'm just blah, and I'm probably going to cry a lot and
Yep.
yell into a pillow, or whatever. I will have to do a lot of regulation, and it definitely will involve crying. um,
It always does. As you
oh,
say, it helps you get through the last part of the stress cycle.
yeah, absolutely. I have to complete the stress response cycle, and I have been in that cycle for quite some time. And I need some sleep because I have not been sleeping well. And last night, it's not like I got sleep because it was over. I was perseverating on everything as my brain was trying to remember, like, what happened? What did you do? Did you say the right thing? Did you say the wrong thing?
Oh,
Did you make everybody feel
yes.
welcome and comfortable and safe? Did you get your point across? Do people understand what you're doing? All of that. Like, all of that.
I feel like a whole bunch of listeners just felt really seen.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's normal after something like this for me anyway, and I don't think that that's just a neurodivergent thing. I also don't think that it's just a stress thing. I think that is a normal part of being human that a lot of people just don't want to recognize because it means that they have to do it even though they don't. Anyway, I don't know why people think that perseveration is weird or whatever. I think it's normal. Um, it's normal for me anyway, and I'm just going to leave it at that. So, all of our cohorts are important. They are
Yes.
all necessary. Education, employment, healthcare, social protections. But you know me,
I
right?
know
The social
you. Mhm.
protections piece is the piece that I am going to focus on because what is happening in that space is, say, I just had that moment of, oh my gosh, somebody's going to hear that and think that I don't love them. Not true. All of them are important. But social protections has a place in my heart specifically because of how I work and how I enjoy looking at all of them at the same time from that justice aspect. So, some of the questions, I really love this. They said, we discussed the issue of salience. How do we raise awareness, educate the public, employers, healthcare practitioners, organizations? How do we keep the momentum going to create that change? How do we get the right people? Specific issues looking like modifications and supports for ND folks, often ending with high school. What supports are out there for adults, and how can we create sustainable supports? Who's doing that? What organizations are doing that? Oh, it's Umbrella, right? It's not that some of the other silos aren't, but now let's bring them together so that the people who have, you know, co-occurring conditions
Mhm.
don't have to spend all of their time, effort, and energy finding those in other spaces. Um, they don't have to look in 500 different websites unless that's what they want to do. That's called the rabbit hole, and it happens. Um, um, and the other thing that is happening in that specific space is the arts community.
Mm.
The arts community, this is where they are able to make massive amounts of impact. Come on, Hollywood, let's get involved.
Right.
Come on, artists, let's get involved. Authors, musicians, all of these amazing creators that we have on TikTok. Let's get involved together to create the impact that we want to create. Um, and creating that sustainability. So, I love this. How do we support and promote indie creatives without getting into inspiration porn?
Mm.
And I love that, right? Because that's
Yeah.
how many people scroll on TikTok for hours and hours and hours because it's inspiring, because it feels good, you know? But then what do we do with it? When we get that inspiration, what do we do?
Mm.
Right? So I just get excited. That's where I got excited. And that same question was also asked in the other groups who had really great specific, in education. We talked about this last time with Rebecca.
Yeah.
IEPs being done
Mm.
in the wrong way.
Yep.
Um, you know, support systems in place that are not supportive. Positive behavior supports that are not that are more focused on the teacher and the classroom instead of the individual. And I will say, as someone who is on the PBIS, Positive Behavior Supports Committee, I have been one of those teachers who said, okay, across the board, we're all going to do X. I'm not saying that I haven't been there. Um, but things can be done differently. Um, for example, RSD in
Mhm.
kids who are being told to stop moving, sit still, um, sit in one place. The cumulative impacts that happen on those kids go into adulthood,
Right.
keep us from accessing resources when we do have access to them because we feel like we can't or we shouldn't or we hate, screw you, I hate school. I'm not going to go to college. I'm not going to go and be told again that I suck. Um,
Right. And that
right?
impact is super young. Like first through third grade is where kids start making those kind of done uh things. Like it's really young. People don't realize how young that impact affects that person's entire future. Um
Right, right. I mean, okay, they have this thing. It's called the secondary curriculum or the hidden curriculum,
mhm.
and it starts as soon as your kid goes to daycare.
Yeah.
So at 6 weeks old, if your kid is going to daycare because you are lucky enough to have 6 weeks off of work, you had to take your own sick leave and vacation for that. Anyway, that was my experience. I got the 6 weeks off work, but it was my sick leave and
Yeah.
vacation, with 1 week left to take care of a newborn and all of their medical needs. That happens, and that's privileged because not everybody even gets that.
Right.
Um, but your kid goes to daycare, and now there's this hidden curriculum that is telling them who they are supposed to be and how they are supposed to be in this world. You're a boy, you're a girl, right? You have to do this,
Yeah.
you have to be this way, and to be a good kid, you have to sit still. Um, don't you know? Don't make that noise. Don't move that way. You're too loud. Quit being so damned happy. Like, don't cry. Um, so
Yeah.
all of that those are things that have to be addressed. And it's funny when you look at it, like in the education system, and then you look over into what are the needs in the employment system. Um, there we are again,
It's
right?
the same stuff.
It's a lot of the same stuff, and then a lot of the conversation last night was, um, what are you know the people in HR and the people who, um, the managers and the leaders, they're not trained. They don't have access. When they are trained, it's not. Um, it's token DEI instead of DEI that is led by neurodivergent people, that is led by Black and global majority
Mhm.
individuals who are also neurodivergent. And, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, well, half the time, this is not to negate anything of what the racial disparity issues of DEI, but when you say DEI, the first thing people don't think of is neurodivergent humans.
correct.
So, I mean, that's also a piece of that as well. That like all of these back to intersections, all of these things are important,
Right,
especially when you are all of the things within there. Like
right, right.
um
I said the other day, and I was really Accessibility quoted it. Um,
oh.
I was like, oh, that's nice. Um, so I said, we can't look at, um, one justice movement and compare it to another justice movement.
Mhm.
Anti-ableism includes anti-racism.
Mhm.
It's not exclusive. And unfortunately, DEI programs don't. Often they don't include anti-ableism or anti-racism, right?
Right. True
um,
fact.
right? Like, Ben and Brady were telling me they just did this, uh, training. There was a whole like DEI training, right? and it was all white people. Everybody out there, they were all white people. And they came and, we were having one of our meetings and they're like, we have to tell you how disappointing this was. They're like, why? Why was there this panel for DEI and there wasn't a single Black or global majority person on this panel? Like,
I don't know.
why were people on the panel not disabled? Like, you know, so this is still happening today. It's not like it's just gone away. Um, so those are the conversations that are happening. The the work that is going to be done. I got so excited last night. I was really like, I was just thinking about it right now. It's just very, it's so exciting.
I understand that exact sentiment.
It's exciting because people will be taking action. People will be coming together. It's already happened. Yes, like we have a Discord server, so that the people who are working in these cohorts can talk to each other, and it's a continuous asynchronous conversation instead of being, okay, we're going to get together once a month for 2 hours and that's going to create change. No, it's not. It's a constant, conversation, getting ideas from other people and then making action plans. And I guess I'm really excited to see that happen. Even though I'm exhausted, even though I'm going to crash and burn, it may not even wait until tomorrow. I'm feeling it right now.
I was gonna say we might close and it might be just Angela and Molly. Well, Molly helping Angela co-regulate for a little bit, but
Yeah, maybe. Like I kind of want to just like dive into work today because I think like I have that feeling of if I just dive into work, um, yeah.
yeah.
So,
All right. Well, we once again somehow jumped from 15 minutes to 47 minutes, and I never know how that actually happens, but it does. So, any last thoughts before we sign off?
um, I hope that anybody who is listening messages us, like message us, contact us, ask us questions. Um, we will periodically create little, um, you know, updates on how things are going. Um, and there are lots of different ways to get involved. So if that's something that you want to get involved in, please contact me and let me know, and we'll make it happen.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, then I think that's it for today.
Okay. And I don't have the thingy up, so talk about something for 2 seconds.
Okay.
Uh,
Um,
actually, you know what? We're not going to close out today like we normally do. It happens. I
totally
don't have
cool.
the thing up. It's okay. Thank you for watching Drudgery, Dreams, and In Between, a weekly live podcast. Check me out. A weekly live
Like this is the thing.
podcast. Coming to you every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Central, 7 a.m. Pacific, on all of your favorite podcasting platforms. Um, See you next week.
See you next week, everybody.